For more anatomy related videos, please subscribe to my channel, Learn with Dr. Tanya Hashik.
Hello everyone, in this video we will continue the anatomy of pharynx. In the previous class we have already discussed about the parts of pharynx, that is the nasopharynx, oropharynx and also laryngopharynx. So the location of nasopharynx, it is behind the nasal cavity, and the location of the oropharynx, it is behind the oral cavity, and the location of the laryngopharynx, it is behind the larynx. So now we will discuss about the extent of each of it. So the nasopharynx, it extends from the base of the skull to the soft palate. So the nasopharynx, it extends from the base of the skull to the soft palate. The oropharynx, it extends from the soft palate to the epiglottis. So we have already discussed what epiglottis is. Epiglottis, it is a cartilage which is seen at the inlet of the larynx. So from the soft palate to the epiglottis, the oropharynx extends. And next is the laryngopharynx. So the laryngopharynx, it extends from the epiglottis to the lower border of the cricoid cartilage. So the laryngopharynx, it extends from the epiglottis to the lower border of the cricoid cartilage. So it is the narrowest among it. Nasopharynx, it is the widest, and the oropharynx, it is narrower compared to the nasopharynx, and the laryngopharynx, it is the narrowest. So now we will discuss about the communication of each of these pharynx. So the nasopharynx, it anteriorly communicates with the nasal cavity, and below it communicates with the oropharynx. Next is the oropharynx. Anteriorly it communicates with the oral cavity, and below it communicates with the laryngopharynx, and superiorly it communicates with the nasopharynx. So oropharynx, it communicates with oral cavity, the nasopharynx and also laryngopharynx, and it is a common tube for both food as well as the air. So next is the laryngopharynx. So the laryngopharynx, it anteriorly it communicates with the larynx, and superiorly it communicates with the oropharynx, and inferiorly it continues as the esophagus. So now we will discuss about the nerve supply to each of this. So nasopharynx, it is supplied by the pharyngeal branch of the pterygopalatine ganglion. So nasopharynx, it is supplied by the pharyngeal branch of the pterygopalatine ganglion. Oropharynx, it is supplied by the 9th and 10th cranial nerve, and the laryngopharynx, it is also supplied by the 9th and 10th cranial nerve. So the nasopharynx, it is supplied by the pharyngeal branch of the pterygopalatine ganglion. Oropharynx, it is supplied by 9th and 10th cranial nerve, and the laryngopharynx, it is also supplied by the 9th and 10th cranial nerve. So next we will discuss about the relations. So first is the nasopharynx. Nasopharynx, it is anteriorly related to the posterior nasal aperture. So this is a posterior nasal aperture. So anteriorly it is related to the posterior nasal aperture. Next, the oropharynx. Oropharynx, it is anteriorly related to the oral cavity, and the laryngopharynx, it is anteriorly related to the inlet of the larynx, posterior surface of the cricoid cartilage and also arytenoid cartilage. So laryngopharynx, it is anteriorly related to the inlet of larynx, the posterior surface of the cricoid cartilage and also the arytenoid cartilage. Next we will discuss about the roof of the nasopharynx. Roof, it is formed by the body of the sphenoid and also the base of the occipital bone. Both are skull bones. So it is formed by the body of the sphenoid and also the base of the occipital bone. Next is the posterior part. So the posterior relations, you can see the nasopharyngeal tonsils there. So what is nasopharyngeal tonsils? These are tonsils which is prominently seen in children. By puberty, it disappears. So the nasopharyngeal tonsils, it is seen in as posterior relation. So this get inflamed sometimes, and as a result, it result in the blockage of the nasal cavity, and this result in the respiration through the mouth. And this condition is called as the adenoid. It is prominently seen in children. So the nasopharyngeal tonsil, it is also seen posteriorly. So next is the posterior relation of the oropharynx. So oropharynx, it is posteriorly related to second and third cervical vertebra. So oropharynx, it is posteriorly related to the second and third cervical vertebra. And the laryngopharynx. Laryngopharynx, it is posteriorly related to the fourth and fifth cervical vertebra. So laryngopharynx, it is posteriorly related to fourth and fifth cervical vertebra. So now we will discuss about the lateral relations. So the nasopharynx, it is laterally related to the auditory tube. So nasopharynx, it is laterally related to the auditory tube on either side. The oropharynx, it is related to the tonsilla fossa containing the palatine tonsil. So the oropharynx, it is related to the tonsilla fossa on either side. So we will discuss about the palatine tonsils and also all kind of tonsils when we discuss about the Valdes lymphatic ring. So oropharynx, it is related to the tonsilla fossa, and the laryngopharynx, it is related to the pyriform fossa. So what is a pyriform fossa? It is a fossa which is present on either side of the inlet of larynx. So it is a space where the foreign bodies get lodged. So laterally, the laryngopharynx, it is related to the pyriform fossa. So now we will discuss about the lining of each of these cavity. So the lining of the nasopharynx, it is ciliated columnar epithelium. So there are presence of cilia. As it only passes air, there are presence of cilia in the nasopharynx. So it is lined by the ciliated columnar epithelium. And the oropharynx and also the laryngopharynx, it is lined by the stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. So the oropharynx and the laryngopharynx, it is lined by stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. So next is the functions of each of this. Nasopharynx, it only passes air. Oropharynx, it is a common passage for both food and air, and the laryngopharynx, it only passes food. So nasopharynx only air, oropharynx for both food and air, and the laryngopharynx, it only passes food. So today we discussed about the parts of the pharynx, and we did a comparative study on the parts. So this is the end of today's video.
This is the end of today's video. For more videos, please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon.